Hello, Sunday School friends. Thank you so much for joining me today. We are back this week talking about Moses and Pharaoh. Now, we know that Moses was an Israelite who was raised by the Pharaoh's daughter after he was put in a basket and sent down the river. So now he is back and he's grown up and he has been spoken to by God and he has been given a mission by God to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. Now, in our story, we will read, he went to Pharaoh 9 times, and 9 times Moses told Pharaoh something bad will happen. Something bad did happen, but Moses was steadfast, but the Pharaoh would not let the Egyptians or the Israelites go. So we are going to read our Bible story next to learn about the story of Moses and Pharaoh. So our Bible story today is, let me pull it up real quick, Exodus chapter 5, verse 1 through all the way through chapter 13, verse 9. So again, we are going to condense the story just so it makes a little bit more sense for our Sunday school audience. When Moses and his brother Aaron got to Egypt, the Lord told them, "Go to Pharaoh and tell him to let the Israelites go. He will be very stubborn and it will take many signs and miracles before he will let you go. But everyone will know that I am God when he finally frees the Israelites." So they went to see Pharaoh, and in front of Pharaoh, Aaron threw down his staff and it became a snake, just as God told Moses it would. Pharaoh did not care, and he shook his head and said, "The Israelites belong to me, and I will not let them go." Moses left disappointed, but God had told them that it would take many chances and it would not be easy. So God instructed them to go the next day. Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh the next morning. Aaron explained, "Because you still won't listen to God, we are going to change all the water in the rivers to blood." After a whole week of this, Pharaoh still would not change his mind, so God sent a plague of frogs. After a day of the frog plague, Pharaoh couldn't take it anymore, and he called for Moses and Aaron and he begged them to take away the frogs. So God did. And Moses prayed to the Lord and all the frogs died. But when Pharaoh saw all the frogs were gone, he changed his mind and would not let the Israelites go. There were many plagues after this that followed: gnats, flies, all the livestock got sick, Egyptians were covered in sores, hail came down and killed the crops, locusts came and ate all the grass. Then there was complete darkness. With all of these plagues, Pharaoh said that he would let the Israelites go, but he kept changing his mind when everything turned back to normal. So the Israelites were not affected by any of these plagues. It was only the Pharaoh and the Egyptians. God made sure the Israelites were safe. The last plague was the worst. He ordered that every firstborn son in Egypt, including the son of the Pharaoh, would be sacrificed. Moses and Aaron warned Pharaoh, but he refused to listen. The Lord had special plans for Moses and the Israelites so that they would not be affected, that they would stay safe. This is known as Passover today because they were passed over and kept safe by God. After Pharaoh realized what happened in Egypt, he finally said, go, we're done with all this, take your people and leave." So Aaron, Moses, and all the Israelites gathered up all their things and they left. Moses knew God would protect them, even when Pharaoh changed his mind again and went after them with an army. They made it all the way to the Red Sea, but then they were trapped. God told Moses to reach out his staff and to put it in the water, and the sea split in two. The water made huge walls of water, and they walked on the bottom of the sea on dry land across to safety. Pharaoh's army followed them into the sea, but when the Israelites made it safe to the other side, the water came crashing down and they were kept safe. Moses did as God had told him to, and he reached his staff over the water and they were safe. The water went back to normal. That was the day the Lord saved the Israelites from the Egyptians. When the Israelites saw what God had done for them, they trusted him, and they knew that Moses would be a good leader for them as they traveled to the land of flowing milk and honey. So as usual, we are going to check out our video next and see what our friends have to say about Moses and the Pharaoh.
Hey friends, I'm Carly. Changing people's minds can be really hard. It's even harder when that person doesn't see what they're doing as wrong. They may have a difficult time understanding why they would change if it's not hurting them and only hurting you. If I'm honest, sometimes it's really hard to change my mind. I usually have really strong opinions about what I want. When friends are at my house, they sometimes want to play a different game or watch a different movie. I have to think about them in order to change my mind, and I have to consider how they feel too. In our story today, there are a bunch of plagues. Plagues are strange events, and sometimes gross and messy things that make people pay attention. For example, one of the plagues was frogs everywhere, and another was big flying bugs. I would have been so scared. I don't even like one bug, much less seeing them everywhere. These were not things that would normally happen. The plagues were designed to change Pharaoh's mind and demonstrate God's control over all of creation and nature. Moses had asked Pharaoh to let the Israelite people free from slavery, but Pharaoh refused. When he refused, the plagues came. The plagues remind us of awe, the awesome and awfulness of some situations. They were really hard to live through and made conditions really tough. There were people impacted that weren't in charge of the decisions to keep the Israelites, but they had to suffer because of someone else's decision. Even with all that power, it took several different plagues to change Pharaoh's mind. The people were in awe of God's power. They had never seen anything like this before. Finally, Pharaoh changed his mind. This was awesome. The people had been in slavery for so long, and now they got to leave and be free. Wow, they were truly in awe of how God helped them. This story reminds us that God is powerful. It also reminds us that even when it's hard to change someone's mind, it isn't impossible. We can keep trying and trying until the right thing is done. In this case, when Pharaoh's mind was changed, God's people got to live in freedom. Now, it's time for you to wonder.
So today we have been talking about the powerful acts of God. 9 times Moses asked Pharaoh to let the Israelites go, and 9 times Pharaoh said no. Now, how many times would you give up after somebody said no to you? Part of this story was Pharaoh saying no, and part of the story is Moses and the Israelites' faith in God that he would overcome and set them free. Now, we know that this power and this awe and this wonder is what eventually led Moses to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. So when we think about persistence, when we think about saying yes or saying no to something, think about Moses. Think about how hard he worked for God and how much he endured to follow God's will. So will you join me in prayer? Dear God, thank you for Moses, and thank you for his persistence and his guidance to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, out to that land of milk and honey. Amen. All right, friends, I will see you next week.
Oh, I wonder how you made it all so good.